Hey, good morning, everybody. Good morning, and welcome back to another Gridiron Expert live stream. We've got Logan Elliott and Zach on here right now. So, good morning to you guys, and good morning to anybody else that may join later on or might watch this later on in the day. Because I know sometimes 8 a.m. Central Time that can be pretty tough to get up for and watch. So, I completely understand. I find it very funny and ironic that the only two people that have commented in the chat so far are a West Virginia fan and a Pittsburgh fan. That's it. They're alone in there. They were alone, the two rivals alone. And obviously, that is a big deal because the Backyard Brawl is on Thursday. So, very, very fitting that Logan and Zach are both the only ones there. And we'll talk a little bit about the Backyard Brawl today. Honestly, I'll tell you what, today, guys, we are kind of letting you guys dictate the conversation again. Tomorrow, we do have a very set topic. I mean, we'll touch on the chat, of course. But we do have a very set topic that we're excited to talk about with you guys. So we'll have that tomorrow. But today, we're taking comments, we're taking chats, questions, and we're just going to want to hear what you guys are thinking. Because we are 2 days away from week one of college football, and that's when the fun really gets started, right? We got the Backyard Brawl, a couple SEC teams in action. Later that afternoon or later that night, we've got Penn State, Purdue, very underrated Big Ten game there. So we've got some big time matchups starting on Thursday that begins 5 straight days of college football. So we couldn't be more excited. I'm sure you guys probably couldn't be either. So good morning, Scott Swindle, Woo Pigs. We've got an Arkansas fan in the chat, Certified Cully. Good morning, Stephen Smith. Good morning. Always appreciate you and all of your support. Yeah, it's going to be a really, really good morning, guys, and it's going to be a really, really good Thursday with all the big games that we have coming up. And to answer the trivia question before we really get going, I think this is probably one of the tougher ones that we laid out for you guys. Vanderbilt scored 63 points against Hawaii last Saturday, 63-10 at Hawaii. When was the last time that they scored that many points on an FBS opponent? And that's a very tough question because I'm sure not too many people care too much about Vanderbilt, and it's been a long, long time since we've seen that kind of offensive output from the Commodores. So last time they scored at least 56 was when they beat Presbyterian back in 2012. But that doesn't count, right? Not an FBS team. The last time they scored that much against an FBS team was all the way back in 1941. 1941, and the FCS wasn't even a thing back then, but technically, we're basing it off of that. 1941, they beat Louisville 68-0. 68-0. So that is, of course, the last time Vanderbilt scored that much. Insane. 1941. So what was that? 81 years? 81 years that they haven't scored that many points against an FBS team. It's insane. But yes, want to throw that out there. Little extra college football knowledge this morning. Nick Thompson, what's going on? It's been a while, my man. So good to see you. Glad you could join us this morning. And again, we're going to hit the chat in a second and take your questions, take your comments. The first thing I do want to do, though, before we really get going, is as always, kind of promote what we are doing here at the channel. Because again, guys, right now, a full-time gig here, working the Gridiron Expert, which we couldn't be more excited about. So every, whether it's a super chat, every expert pick subscription, every prize picks promo that you guys sign up for, anything like that, really, really benefits us and helps us continue to grow the channel. So again, we've got our expert picks over on our website, thegridironexpert.com. Some of the best college football and NFL spread picks in the country, guys. We hit 67% of our bets in week 0. So week 0 alone, 67% of the bets. And we've got a really, really good week 1 shaping up. Our picks come out every Wednesday over on our website. And you also get exclusive access to the Discord server as well. Some extra content in that you wouldn't get if you just signed up for free. So the expert picks, guys, again, we're going to beat out 80% of the national analysts or more again this year. We've done it each of the last 7 years, and we would love for you guys to sign up for that. Again, it's a full year for that low of a price, and we can guarantee that you're going to win some money. Same with prize picks. Obviously, with prize picks, guys, if you use our promo code GRIDIRON or if you use the link down in the description below and then use the promo code through that and sign up for prize picks, a one-time deposit, guys, helps us out tremendously. And prize picks, a lot of fun. Daily fantasy sports app allows you to mix and match different sports. And it's not just betting against the spread or the money line or anything like that. It's more prop bets with players, and it's a lot of fun. Very easy to use, and really an easy way to make a lot of money. So I want to throw that out there. Utilizing the expert picks, utilizing super chat, whatever it may be, benefits us significantly. We always want to throw that out there towards the beginning of our live streams, just so everybody kind of has a brief heads up. So, all right, having said all of that, excusing the pleasantries and introductions, if you will, the same old, I do want to talk about the backyard brawl a little bit. And so that's where we'll kind of start here, kind of dictating that. And then I will, of course, come down and we'll give, Stephen, I will answer your question, and anybody else in their comments and stuff as well. But Logan and Zach right now, big-time West Virginia, Pittsburgh fans. I see that, let's see, Logan will not be at the backyard brawl, but Zach will be. So awesome. Glad you're going to, at least one of you guys is going to get to be there. That's going to be very, very cool. And one heck of an atmosphere. And that's the thing, right? I hear a lot of people right now talking about this game on Thursday night. The first time since 2011 that West Virginia and Pittsburgh have met on the football field. We put a video out about this game yesterday, a prediction video out for Pittsburgh and the Mountaineers yesterday. And many are quick to try to point out that while the game is at Pittsburgh, it's not home field advantage. West Virginia, is going to come dominate, and it's going to be probably more Mountaineer fans there than the Panthers. And that could be so. But I'm willing to bet you that it's probably about a 50-50 split. 60-40, somewhere around there. I don't see, one side or the other just completely dominating the stands because of how big a deal this is, because of how long it has been since they played, because of how big and heated the rivalry is. I don't see one team, even though it is at Pittsburgh, dictating it. So I still think Pittsburgh will own a slight home field edge. It literally is in their backyard. But West Virginia is going to show up, and they're going to show out, and I will give them that. But we've got Zach over here saying that Pittsburgh's going to win by at least 14. Logan thinks it's going to be a little bit closer than that. The spread in Vegas is 7.5, and let me tell you, that hook, a little bit dangerous, 7.5. So they know what they're doing. They're trying to get you with that half point there. And that's a little sketchy if you ask me. Because here's the thing. There's a lot of unknowns for both teams. And I think that's the frustrating part. Right? For both teams as well. If you're a fan, there's so many unknowns and so much anticipation. It's, right now you're looking at a team in Pittsburgh that lost so much. You lose Kenny Pickett and you lose Jordan Addison and you lose your offensive coordinator. And you say, how are we going to do offensively? Last year we were phenomenal, especially in the past. How are we going to do now? You're probably going to be okay because you're not left high and dry. You're bringing in Keaton Slovis, who's a very talented quarterback. Very talented quarterback when he was healthy. The numbers at USC show that. And he's still got a very strong supporting cast around him, including a really, really good offensive line. So he should remain healthy because I don't think he's going to get hit that often. But then the same goes for West Virginia, right? A mediocre team last year, 6-6 in the regular season. They're hyped because they got Graham Harrell as their OC, and they've got JT Daniels as their quarterback. And JT is good, right? I mean, when we've seen him play, the limited time we've seen him play, he's been pretty good. We saw him play at USC some, we saw him play at Georgia some, but he's got to stay healthy, certainly, and he's got to actually deliver because this might be the first time that we've really seen JT Daniels play a full season for any team. Can he show up? Can he show out? Can he do it against a Pittsburgh team that has a strong secondary? I think the big stat that I really liked pointing out in our video yesterday was the fact that Pittsburgh returns all but one starter in the secondary, while West Virginia loses all but one starter in the secondary. There's a huge difference there. And whether you want to talk about how big a deal these transfers will be for West Virginia, and how they only, someone said we lost chemistry, but we didn't lose talent. Well, maybe so, but chemistry is kind of a big deal. The ability to cover is a pretty big deal, especially when you're facing a talented quarterback like Pittsburgh on their home turf. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. And so, Logan, I think that was very admirable of you personally to say, hey, I think Pitt's got the edge. Most West Virginia fans, if you don't have them by 30 points, you're an idiot. But you're over here saying that, yeah, I think it's going to be close. I think Pittsburgh wins. So be it. And I agree with you. I do think it's a close game. I do think Pittsburgh wins. As we mentioned in our video, this is a team that is, well coached, better coached than West Virginia and Pat Narduzzi. I don't have much faith in Neil Brown. We've never seen the offense really take off under Neil Brown. Maybe this is the year, but only because they have JT. Let's keep in mind this. JT Daniels is a huge deal and a huge boost and will benefit West Virginia, but if he wasn't playing for the Mountaineers right now, this spread for this game would be over 14 points. The spread for Pittsburgh would be 14 plus, right? So one player has lowered the spread significantly and has people going from, oh yeah, this is a surefire Pittsburgh victory, to go, this might be kind of close. We got to think about that too. How big will the JT Daniels effect really be? Because otherwise, West Virginia really wasn't that great last year and would have major issues offensively. So something to kind of keep in mind as we head into Thursday. Obviously, very, very excited for it. That's the marquee game. Because one of the things we're doing, guys, here on the channel now, and you'll see that today, actually, around 1 p.m. Central Time, is, we're going to start putting out regular season games or individual videos for every top 25 matchup, like ranked versus ranked matchup, right? So this week, we're going to have an individual video for Arkansas, Cincinnati, Oregon, and Georgia, and then, of course, Ohio State and Notre Dame. We will have videos for all three of those games throughout the course of this week. But today, and just like we're going to do every week this season, we're giving you our 5 games that are, not ranked versus ranked matchups, right? So typically, we would do our top 5 games of the week, and it would include all those ranked games. But we want to obviously crank out more content for you and shed a little more light on some games that maybe aren't getting nearly enough attention. So today at 1 o'clock, we're dropping our top 5 games that don't include ranked versus ranked matchups. It'll include some ranked teams, but they're not facing a ranked opponent. There are a couple games on there that are between 2 unranked teams. But obviously those games have major implications one way or another, whether it's on the national stage, in a conference race, who knows what it could be. So we're really excited to do that. But we made an exception for week 1 because of how big the backyard brawl is. We didn't put that in our prediction for today. We made an individual video for it because I think that's very deserving of it. The first time that you're meeting since 2011 had made 68 consecutive years up to that point and then ended. So definitely worthy of its own video. All right, so enough of that, right? Everybody's kind of tired of the backyard brawl. I'm sure we'll talk more about it tomorrow. We'll certainly talk more about it on Thursday, where everybody can put the money where their mouth is because the players are finally going to play. We're going to see the teams play. So very, very excited for this. Zach is hammering the Purdue money line on Thursday. I think that's a pretty good pick. I feel very confident in Purdue winning that game Thursday over Penn State. Stephen Smith, what are your thoughts on Nebraska losing to Northwestern? Is Scott Frost done in Nebraska? And I will address that. Let me give a shout out real quick again to Certified Cully. Go Frogs. Tavis McKay, can't wait to go to the Notre Dame BYU game in person. That's going to be a heck of a matchup because that one's in Vegas. So what a matchup that's going to be and what a time that'll be for you. And then Mike Myrick, good morning. Good to see you, Mike. It has been a while, but go Noles, as always. Obviously, they looked really, really good against Duquesne. Yes, granted, it was Duquesne. But obviously, better than that Jacksonville State result from last year, right? So they actually were able to take down an FCS team. But really happy to see the Noles looking good. Really excited to see them play on Sunday against LSU. We will be breaking down that game this week. So again, Mike, appreciate you and all your support, my man. And very happy you could hop in for a little bit today. Same for you, Teen Raider. Hope you're doing well. Good morning. What's going on? Very pumped to have you here. And all of you that are on the chat today. All right. I want to touch on Stevens real quick. We touched this a little bit yesterday. We had our friend Connor Hibbett, College Football Encyclopedia on. We didn't get to do too deep of a dive into that Nebraska game. Guys, it's bad. It is, to put it bluntly. It's so bad. I don't know if we've got any Nebraska fans on the chat. Maybe we'll have some that watch this later on. But Nebraska football, it's unbelievable. It's truly unbelievable. And here's the thing. So the schedule is manageable down the stretch, guys, where Nebraska could still go bowling, right? We had them at 7-5, beating Northwestern, but still 7-5. So, you take that away, they could still go 6-6 and go bowling. And that's where Nebraska has to ask themselves, what are we genuinely content with here? Are we going to be content just to get to a bowl game in 2022? If so, if Scott Frost wins 6 games, which is still very feasible, then we keep him. But I don't think Nebraska is content with that. Where do you draw the line here, guys? Because here's the bottom line. Nebraska was the better team last Saturday against Northwestern. They were, 100%. You want to know why they lost that game? They lost it simply because of coaching. Poor coaching. That is why. Because let me tell you something. Nebraska doesn't lose that game if they don't kick the onside. If they don't do that onside kick, Nebraska wins that game. And what was going through his mind when he chose to do that? Some would say, you're up 20, think about the momentum of the game, guys. Whether you want to believe it or not, there is such a thing in college football as momentum. Nebraska goes into halftime down 17-14. They were up 14-3, dominating the game in every aspect. And then they loosened up. It's almost like Nebraska thinks that as soon as they get up double digits, they can just quit. Whether it's the first quarter, third quarter, whatever. If we're up by double digits, if we're up by 10 or more, we're good. We don't have to play anymore. And obviously that's far from the case. If a team like Northwestern can come back and beat Nebraska, who can't? Nebraska jumps out to a 10, 14-point lead against Oklahoma in a few weeks. I guarantee you Oklahoma will come back and win that game. And Oklahoma is going to win that game. We picked that in the preseason. I guarantee it's going to happen now. Because there's two things I want to go back to. First off, the onside kick. You the momentum. Northwestern leads by 3 at halftime. Nebraska misses a long field goal to end the half. So they enter halftime down on themselves. They realize we just blew an 11-point lead in the first half. We just missed a field goal. So now we're losing at halftime. And everybody's thinking, here we go again. Here we go again. Another one-possession loss. Another blown lead. Well, they come out of halftime. They look pretty good. They score 21-17. You get the fumble. And right after that, a really, really good run. 28-17. Everybody, and me included, go, okay, there we go. That's the Nebraska we saw early in the first half. That's what we needed to see. 28-17. This game isn't out of reach completely, but one more score, especially a touchdown, will do it. And that might have been what was going through Scott Frost's mind, right, when he kicked that onside, was maybe we're going to catch Northwestern off guard. They're a little down on themselves. If we recover this onside kick and score, make it 35-17, it's over. They're not coming back from that. 18 points in the second half, they're not coming back from that. But I'm telling you that had they kicked it deep, whether it had been a touchback or whether Northwestern would have returned it a little bit, the Wildcats would not have gotten any points on that drive. They would not have gotten any points on that drive. I feel very confident about that. The momentum was on their side. Northwestern looked rejected. They looked defeated. And I think that had Nebraska just kicked it deep, they would have gotten their stop. They may not have gotten great field position after the punt, but they would have gotten the stop, would have had their shot to take it, or at the very least, would have wasted a little bit more time off the clock. And then who knows what could have happened. It was poor coaching. It was terrible. It was terrible. And that to me ultimately cost them the game. Because a few plays later, Northwestern, it wasn't like it took 5 minutes for Northwestern to go that 40, 50 yards to score. It was like 4 or 5 plays in the end zone. Done. And all that momentum Nebraska had was taken away. Just like that. And you have no one to blame but the coach for that. So bottom line is, guys, Nebraska was the better team. Poor coaching lost them that game. And I have a feeling that there will be a couple games later this year where coaching does it again. So, you guys are in the comments, talking about it. Tav is saying Frost will be let go by mid-October. Anything worse than 4-2? The irony is he's probably gonna be 4-2, right? They'll probably lose to Oklahoma, but every other game is winnable after that. They've got like North Dakota, Georgia Southern, Rutgers, Indiana. Like, I think that plus Oklahoma are like their next 5 games. They're probably going to go 4-1 down that stretch. They'll probably be 4-2 entering mid-October. And then you got to say, well, in all honesty, that's not that bad. Like, yeah, we wish we were 5-1. Should beat Northwestern. Maybe should beat Oklahoma. Who knows? But 4-2, you're 2 wins away from a bowl game. They're going to have to probably clinch that by the first week of November, considering that November slate is brutal. And they've got like Michigan, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa. Like, the last month of the year is so tough. I don't know if they're going to be able to win a single game in there. Which is why that Northwestern game was so important. But bottom line is, I do think he's gone. I think he's gone. The buyout, as I've heard, many have heard, the buyout decreases in October, either the first week or mid-October. It decreases. So depending on how Scott Frost fares by then, he could be out. Let me tell you one thing, too. Last thing, and then we'll take some more comments. Nebraska plays North Dakota this Saturday. And Scott just took the words right out of my mouth. Nebraska can't sleep on North Dakota. They play North Dakota this Saturday. North Dakota consistently is one of the better teams within the FCS. You've got a Nebraska team that, yes, it's their home opener, so the crowd will be there. The Cornhusker faithful are unbelievable. But North Dakota is not afraid of anybody. Just like North Dakota State's not afraid of anybody. Just like South Dakota State, who could upset Iowa this weekend, is not afraid of anybody. And I'm just saying that you got a Nebraska team that's rejected, the losses, the news, everything's kind of in their head, kind of screwing with them a little bit. They're hearing this news. They're hearing about how bad they are and how bad the coach is and things like that. Don't be surprised if that game's really, really close. And I will tell you that Scott Frost will be fired by Sunday morning if they lose to North Dakota. And that, to me, is a fact. So wait and see how that pans out. But don't think they'll lose, but it might be closer than you think or that you want. All right, let's see what else we have here. Matthew Hazelhorse, good to see you. Good morning. A very regular viewer now in the mornings. I appreciate you, man. Anthony James, good morning. Out there on the West Coast joining us this morning. So good to see you, Anthony. Very happy you could be here for a little bit. We might have to start talking about the Pac-12 in a little bit, just for you. But Matthew, Anthony, super pumped you're here. Rooks, baby, glad you could be here as well. And someone as well. I'm just kind of reading the usernames here. Glad you could be here. And he says that if Nebraska doesn't go bowling, he's gone because they probably win the next 2 games. So, yes, and obviously if he doesn't go bowling, he's gone too. It's one of those things where no bowl for sure gone, but I also wonder, will 6-6 do the trick? Will they suck it up and say, okay, you did it, you got to our bowl game, we're going to give you another year, or are they going to say, hey, yeah, 6-6 fine, but we're Nebraska, we're expecting like better than that. That's what I don't know. The whole Bo Pelini stat's very interesting to me too. I think some teams are very quick. Nebraska kind of screwed themselves over. Bo Pelini had them in contention, right? He consistently, was, not national title contenders necessarily, but he had them in Big Ten championship games. He had them in a Big 12 championship game. He had them competitive consistently, 8, 9, sometimes 10 win seasons, were nationally ranked. He had them there. And Nebraska looked at it and goes, well, we're Nebraska. We're better than that. We're a blue blood program. We should be playing for national titles. You're not getting us there, so you're out. Bet they're really wishing they had him now. They kind of jumped the gun a little bit because sometimes your next hire could be worse and you're going to be wishing about what you used to have. Man, what did we do? Why did we let him go? And I know there was a big, not scandal, but some feuds between Pelini and the staff, right? It was kind of like, go ahead. You want to fire me? Go ahead and do it. They were like, okay, done. And he was like, crap. I didn't think they'd actually do it. But yeah, I do wish he was still there. I love Bo Pelini. I loved his fire and his passion, although he may have lost his touch after that last stint as defensive coordinator with LSU 2020. That was pretty rough. All right, let's see here. This is a good question here. Hey, J. John DeFalcon Dog. Good morning. Good to see you. Good. Glad you could be here. I want to touch on Matthew's question here, and then we'll come back to Rooks Babies, of course. But Matthew, what does the loss say about Adrian Martinez? And that's coming up a lot since the loss. Honestly, I don't know if it says that much about Adrian Martinez, to be honest with you, Matthew. A lot of people are talking about it. We realize that Casey Thompson played extremely well against Northwestern. I believe the 2 interceptions that he threw, I think he had 2, weren't really his fault, especially the last one. A little bit behind the receiver, sure, but it probably should have been caught. Just, it was not the worst throw in the road, went off the hands. Probably should have been caught. But I don't really blame him exactly for that last interception. He still threw for over 320 yards, close to 350 yards. The one thing that I think is different, what I think it says, Matthew, more than anything, is it says more about Mark Whipple and the offense. Because I came into this game thinking, Nebraska's going to run the ball a lot. You've got Casey Thompson, who can throw, I think from a passing standpoint, is an upgrade from Adrian Martinez in terms of accuracy and just arm strength. And we saw that from time to time. But I also thought, hey, you've got a good Nebraska team that wants to run the football, and you've got a quarterback back there that can run the football as well. So tons of read options, tons of normal options, tons of options where if Casey Thompson wants to escape the pocket and take off for 10, 15 yards, let him do it. And he never did. And I think he was kind of told and trained not to do that by Mark Whipple in this offense. I think he was like, hey, you're going to be more of a pocket passer here. And Martinez wasn't really that. Martinez, with his speed, and obviously not as tall and as big as Casey Thompson, they utilized him more with the ground game and with the rushing. But why not keep that up? Why not keep that up? Because I think, there probably were some opportunities where Nebraska could have picked up some first down or could have made themselves a better second or third and manageable had Thompson had free reign to run. And they really didn't use that aspect of his game much. And then Scott Frost comes out there and criticizes that. Yeah, I think our offensive scheme is going to have to change a little bit. They're going to have to realize that to win in this league, you haven't even won in this league. I don't want to hear it. I think that was very classless by Scott Frost. Do I think Mark Whipple was a little too conservative? Yes, I do. I think they were wrong not to utilize Thompson's dual threat ability. But to come out there and say, hey, to win in this league, our offense is going to be better, and our coordinators need to pick better plays. Buddy, you haven't won in this league either. This is Mark Whipple's first game with the program. He's fresh off an ACC championship with Kenny Pickett, just produced a first-round draft pick. What have you done, Scott? You won a national championship in 2017? You were the golden boy for Nebraska back in, the 90s? I mean, come on. I thought that was ridiculous. So I don't think it says much about the loss of Martinez. I think it says a lot about the play calling and their unwillingness to utilize Casey Thompson's dual threat ability. And Matthew's saying, I wonder if they kept it in the air, being they predictably ran the ball every play the last 4 years. And that's possible too. I think everybody, including myself, thought Nebraska was going to kind of ground and pound against Northwestern. Northwestern had a horrible rushing defense last year. Nebraska dominated them on the ground last year, and they won 56-7, so why not? The passing game's a brand new element for Nebraska that we really haven't seen the last few years. It's the best passing offense they've had in the last few years because Martinez really couldn't cut it when it came to that. So in terms of a passing upgrade, Thompson is an upgrade. He is better than Martinez, but Martinez absolutely was a better runner and probably fits that RPO style better than Thompson, although I think Thompson would do just fine if they let him do it. So pick your poison. I think most Nebraska fans were excited to get Casey Thompson and to let Adrian Martinez go due to his inconsistency, but I think they thought he'd be utilized a little bit differently, and hopefully he will going down the road. I mean, that's what I hope. Chris saying that he was hoping Nebraska would be 3-0 when Oklahoma came to town. Yeah, I think we all did, right? 2 undefeated teams, old Big 12 rivalry, potential ranked versus ranked matchup, because I'm sure the AP would have slipped Nebraska in there, like 24, 25, just to make it look better. But that's not going to happen anymore. So yeah, Nebraska just continuously finds a way to kind of screw that up, don't they? So I hate that for you. I hate that, Chris. All right, let me go back up here and answer. Where is it? Rooks, baby. Other than Nebraska, what other coaches are on the hot seat this year? Yeah, that's a good question. That is a good question. There's a lot. I saw Scott up there say Neil Brown over at West Virginia. Logan may agree or disagree with that, or West Virginia fans may or disagree with that. I agree that Neil Brown's up there. Really hasn't produced many winners at West Virginia. He's gone to a couple of bowl games, good for him, but isn't performing well in them necessarily. And I think West Virginia is tired of finishing 6-6, and 7-5, 8-4. They need to be contending a little bit more. And this is kind of the year that will do that, right? A lot of hype. Finally have a good, competent quarterback, something they've kind of struggled with. Good offensive coordinator. So if West Virginia shows up this year and fails to go bowling or goes just 6-6 or whatever and is very mediocre, Neil Brown could hit the road because that's just not cutting it with the Mountaineers. So he's one that I think certainly on the hot seat. Great point by Scott. There are a lot of new coaches right now that obviously you don't have to worry about being on the hot seat. I'm kind of going through the conferences in my head. Obviously Scott Frost, obviously Neil Brown. I'm trying to think in the SEC. Brian Harson. Yeah, Brian Harson certainly on the hot seat at Auburn. They kind of wanted to get rid of him last year. After that season, they were 6-2 and then lost 5 straight to end the year. Now the AD is gone. Which I think Auburn's about to clear house. If you ask me personally, the thing for Auburn is this, and we had our guy Charter Nicholson who comments quite a bit. He made this point on one of our previous videos. He said, it's one of those things where if Auburn fails to make a bowl game or barely makes a bowl game, like at 6-6 or something, he's gone. Right, Brian Harson is gone. If he does really, really good, 9, 10 wins somehow, they're of course going to keep him. It's one of those things where it's the scary 7-5, 8-4 range, which is mediocre. Does Auburn keep him or let him go? Right? And he said, personally, he goes, I think 7-5 or 8-4 is the worst case scenario for us because then we're kind of in limbo. If we're on this end of the spectrum where we're horrible, 5-7, 6-6, whatever, he's gone. If we have a great season, we'd be happy. We're super pumped, good season, 10-2, 9-3, whatever, we're good, and he's staying. But anything in between that, it's like, crap, what do we do? Because the administration's all out of whack. The boosters aren't going to be happy with 7-5, 8-4. They're not going to be thrilled with that. They weren't, so it's a tough situation. So I think he's on the hot seat for sure. I think he probably will be gone by season's end because I don't think Auburn exceeds 6 wins. No, definitely doesn't exceed 7. I think that's generous, especially with all the turmoil going through them. Losing Nick Brahms now at center. A lot of big losses on that team. Who I saw one? Eli Drinkwitz. Jay John saying Eli Drinkwitz is. I don't know if he is yet with Missouri. What's this? His third year now. He's entering year 3 and went 5-5 in his first year, that COVID year. Last year got Missouri to a bowl game. Was it 6-6 and then lost the bowl game to Army. So this year for Missouri, we have them at 4-8. They're not going to be much of anything. But I think Missouri is going to give him at least 2 more years. They're going to give him this year and then next year because he's recruited relatively well. And I think they recognize it. I think they say, hey, he's recruiting well. We need to give him a chance to try to develop these recruits, give him a shot to play, see what kind of difference they can make. So I think Drinkwitz gets this year. If he exceeds expectations, go bowling. He's in the clear. Doesn't matter what happens next year. But if he has a losing record this year, next year could be his last year unless those recruits really come into place and Missouri wins probably 7 or 8 games. So, but yeah, I don't think Drinkwitz is a very good coach personally. I think he's a very bad coach if you ask me. It's kind of a goober, honestly, and he'll be out relatively soon. Dino Babers as well. Dino Babers in the ACC, possibly on the hot seat. And then you've got a couple coaches that are in limbo, right? Like you wonder, like what will the school actually pull the trigger? Like look at Florida State and Mike Norvell. What if Florida State struggles again? They looked good against Duquesne, but what if they only go 6-6? What if Florida State really, that'd be huge to go to a bowl game under Mike Norvell. It's kind of like Scott Frost. It's like, hey, we're going to the postseason. What more do you want? But Florida State is very similar to Nebraska and some of these other programs where they're expecting excellence. They're expecting, ACC titles and to be ranked and to be contending, and they're not going to do that this year. So, what does it take for Florida State to fire Mike Norvell? A losing season? Probably. 6 wins, 7 wins? I don't know. Probably not. So, kind of these coaches that are in limbo. That you're really not sure if they're going to be able to stick around or not. So that's one there. So you got an ACC, a couple ACC, got a couple SEC, got the one in the Big 12, Big 10. I really can't think, other than Nebraska, obviously, can't think of many big ones there. I think everybody in the East is pretty solid, other than maybe Tom Allen at Indiana. They signed him to a big extension a couple years ago, went 2-10. If they struggle again this year, I can see them biting the bullet and letting them go. And obviously in the West, you have Nebraska. But everybody else in the West seems to be pretty solid. I don't think there's anybody there that they'd let go. And then Jeff Collins, another fantastic point there too, of Jay John. Jeff Collins will be gone. I can tell you that. Jeff Collins will be out by season's end. That's if I had to put some money down, that's be mine. Because Georgia Tech's not going to be very competitive this year. They'll be lucky if they can win 3 games, which is what he's done every year since he's been with the Yellow Jackets. Maybe they improve slightly, 4 wins, 5 wins. Bottom line is that's not going to cut it. Georgia Tech wants to go to at least a bowl game, right? Right? Surely just get to a bowl game. And they're not. They're going to fall way short of that. And so I think they're going to let him go for sure. So excellent points there. Neil Brown, Scott Frost, Brian Harson, Steve Sarkisian, not there with Steve yet after just 1 year, unless he has another losing season. Texas might let him go, but I don't think they're going to let him go yet, especially with the way he's recruited. So Sarkisian stays, but Dino and Mike Norvell certainly on the hot seat as well. So definitely agree with all of that. Let's see here. Clement, good morning, Clement. Oh, man, he is a great commenter. Always got some good points, analysis. I love getting to see Clement's comments on all of our videos. So good morning to you. Glad you're here with us this morning. And kind of, repeating a lot of what we said. They're in a tailspin. They should have won last week, but they couldn't stop the running game in the second half. Sure, also they couldn't stop Ryan Helinski either. The fact that guy, who had one of the worst passing offenses in the country last year, went out and torched you for over 300 yards, blows my mind. Absolutely blows my mind. So, Nebraska in a rough spot. Matthew, he says, hey, it's okay with me that Nebraska's not undefeated. He says, the worse Oklahoma looks, the better. Salty Big 12 fan, got to be that way. He's hoping Nebraska comes in there as 2-1 or worse and then beats Oklahoma, makes them look bad. So I like it. Love the hostility. That is what makes college football so good, right? And Caleb, he's saying that Thompson only had 157 yards on the ground last year. Never really did much rushing. His passing is on point. Just needs some protection. That's true. He does need protection, but he did have plenty of dual threat capability as well. 157 yards, not a lot, but here's what I picture this, right? 157 yards, not tons. We're not talking about some of the other dual threat quarterbacks that are rushing for 400, 500 yards, right? But the ability to be mobile in the pocket is key. The ability to say, hey, I actually am going to take off for 10 yards right now, try to pick up a first down, is key. There's some quarterbacks in the country that can't do that. Some big-time solely pocket passers that if it starts to collapse, they're going down. They can't escape it. And my biggest example to that would be what actually he did against Northwestern. If you saw him, he rolled out left, looked like he was going to run, backtracked a little bit, danced around, and then chunked it deep, and they got like 50, 60 yards on that pass play. He didn't run for any yard. He never took off and ran. But his ability to maneuver himself in the pocket, to escape the pocket, to extend the play, that's where the mobility comes in, and that's something that you're not going to get from another big-time pocket passer. Could Ryan Helinski have pulled that maneuver off against Nebraska? No, he couldn't have, because athletically he's not capable. He's just not. Do I think, I'm just throwing out quarterbacks here. Do I think Will Rogers at Mississippi State could have pulled off that maneuver? No, he's not. Guys that really are solely pocket passers and don't really run or move at all couldn't have done that. And that adds an extra element to Thompson's game, because here's the thing, only 157 yards on the ground, but what also that does is it has to keep the defense honest, because we do know it's possible. If I'm a defensive coordinator and I know I'm facing a solely pocket passer, I'm not too worried about him burning me on the ground. Like every now and then, oh man, he picked up 5-6 yards. Oh well, he escaped the pocket and ran. Okay. But with Thompson, you have to stay honest. You have to say, all right, hey, more than likely he's going to stay in the pocket. He's a good passer. He's accurate, but there's a chance that he's fast enough and mobile enough that he could pick up 15 yards like that. We've got to be, cautious of that. But right now, again, they haven't utilized that talent yet. Again, it has only been 1 year or one game. All right, let's see. I think we are finally caught up on the chat, which is good. Looking good there. Awesome, perfect. George Stice, good morning, George. Good you could be here. Very happy you could join us today. It's been a while. One of our moderators, one of our longtime GE viewers, so super pumped you could join us this morning. Hope you're doing well. He said Western Kentucky's dubbing Auburn this year. And hey, you know what? If I would actually say you're not crazy if Western Kentucky still had Bailey Zappi at quarterback. But you know what? The Hilltoppers, they struggled a little bit against Austin Peay, still came out victorious. First game jitters, new quarterback, trying to figure things out. If Auburn's defense isn't great, and if Auburn's in shambles, if by towards the season's end they are struggling and basically giving up, I wouldn't write it out of the question, put it out of the question, honestly. Might be closer than you think. Billy, after watching the Vandy game, I wanted to go to bed. Who didn't, right? Who didn't? But it was kind of fun to watch. That's the funny thing, right? Like, it was one of those things where it was like, you've got a Vandy team that historically is very, very bad, 2-10 last year. And they, you watch this game between two teams that are really bad and you think it might be good. And then all of a sudden, Vandy drops 63 points and looks amazing. It looks like Alabama out there. And it's kind of fun to see the really bad teams do good, It's sometimes fun to see the bad teams do well. And some say it was boring. It wasn't a fun game to watch necessarily, but it was fun to see Vandy just kind of having fun on the sideline and looking solid. And Mike Wright, man, he's a dog. He's a heck of a player. It might not translate to much success in the SEC, but that dual threat capability is good, and from a passing standpoint, he looked a lot better too. So Vanderbilt's offense as a whole looks good. They might not even win an SEC game, Might not win an SEC game, but there's a good chance they won that. They should beat Elon. They probably could beat Northern Illinois now. I wasn't confident about that to begin with, but they could now if they stay if they stay hot. That Wake Forest game, many are jumping the gun on that. I don't think they're ready to upset the Demon Deacons yet, but that game might be closer than we originally expected. All right, let's see here. Scott Swindle, Arkansas fan, wants to know about the Cincinnati Wampus Cats, those Cincinnati Bearcats that are coming to Fayetteville on Saturday. Well, I'll tell you what. Actually, Scott, I'll break them down briefly, but we actually will have a Arkansas-Cincinnati prediction video, Scott, coming out tomorrow. Arkansas and Cincinnati prediction video coming out tomorrow, so make sure to stay tuned for that. We're really excited to talk about that. But, Cincinnati is one of those teams, guys, that they are again, a favorite to win the American, but by no means are they going back to the playoff. By no means are they playoff contenders. And I do think they're going to struggle in week 1 against the Razorbacks. Not in a bad, horrible blowout way, but any team that loses their star quarterback, their star running back, their top wide receiver, has quarterback questions. They don't even know who it's going to be right now heading into Saturday, and loses your top 2 cornerbacks on defense and has some questions on the defensive line. All of those things being said, when you lose that much from a team that made the playoff last year, you're not going to come up in week 1 and be amazing. It's going to take some time to get going. It's going to take some time to start gelling and moving, especially when you're facing an SEC team on the road, an SEC team that is significantly better than you offensively and probably has a little bit more talent, size, and speed than you defensively as well. Again, the Razorbacks are not going to blow out the Bearcats by any means. I think it is going to be relatively close. But Cincinnati, because of how much they lost, I do not think we'll be able to pull off that win and will not be able to hang with them for a full 4 quarters. But again, as Billy just said, Razorback and Gator fans should be on high alert, 100%. Cincinnati is still a ranked opponent. You can't just expect this to be a quick, easy cupcake game. It's gonna be close. But I do like Arkansas. Let's see here. Clement, great question. Which games are underrated in week 1? We'll touch on that probably more tomorrow. We're going to touch a little bit more on the week 1 games tomorrow. So I'll make sure to come back to show up tomorrow night, guys, actually. So, we did the morning show yesterday. Tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Central Time, that's when we will be doing our live stream tomorrow. So come with questions, come with comments. We've got a couple of topics we're going to be ready to go, a couple of slides we got prepared, but we will be on here tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Central Time, and that's when we're really going to be able to really get going. Again, at that point, we're 1 night away from the start of the week 1, so very excited for that. Let's see, Logan. Yes, I will touch on Purdue and Penn State in 1 second, but I want to get to George. Who's the most overrated team in the SEC? Most overrated team in the SEC. It's not Kentucky. It's Texas A&M. It's Texas A&M. Texas A&M is the most overrated team in the SEC by far, and they have been consistently. Typically I'd say a team like Tennessee or someone like that, but while I don't, Tennessee has the potential to win 10 games. They do. I've got them at 8. But A&M for me is the big one. Guys, we're looking at a team that is starting off in the top 10 again, just like they were last year. And do we really think they're going to be a play? Desmond Howard, what he's smoking, because they got them winning the national championship, winning the playoff. It makes no sense to me. Yes, we know they've recruited well. Yes, we know they've got a talented quarterback in Haynes King, who has been named the starter for the Aggies. And they got some solid skill players. But when you look at the schedule, do you really think A&M is going to navigate that without at least 2 losses? Maybe more? Miami in week 3, not going to be easy. They get to host them, but not going to be easy. Then they play Arkansas in Dallas, an Arkansas team they lost to last year, an Arkansas team they very well could lose to again. Right after Arkansas, they traveled to Mississippi State, a team they lost to at home last year, a team that might have the best Mississippi State team yet under Mike Leach, and it's in Starkville. Then they traveled to Alabama. So 4 straight games there that are all losable for Texas A&M, right? And they lost to 2 of those teams. They didn't play Miami last year, somehow managed to beat Alabama, but now they're traveling to Tuscaloosa for that game. So A&M, again, getting all this preseason hype, and by mid-October, could easily have 3 losses or 4. Let's think about that. I actually have them losing to Arkansas, Mississippi State, and Alabama. Many people say there's no way they're losing 3 straight games, but I think there is because those games come at a horrible time. You play Arkansas right after a tough game against Miami. The Razorbacks are going to be very, very good. Should be 3-0 coming into that game. Whether they win or lose, if they lose, they're upset. They're down on themselves. Now they have to go to Starkville, deal with the Cowbells 1 week before they play Alabama, and we know that's where their mind is. They are ready, mindset on Alabama, because not only do they want to beat them again, but they've had all this offseason drama between Nick Saban and Jimbo Fisher that they're pumped and amped to play Alabama. So even if you will say, oh, no, they're going to beat Arkansas, they're going to beat Miami, okay, they're undefeated, I think they still lose to Mississippi State because I think there was something called a look ahead to that Alabama game, and they will be looking ahead to that game. So it comes in a horrible spot. You beat Arkansas, great. You play Mississippi State on the road, you lose because you're looking ahead. You lose to Arkansas, you're still looking ahead to Alabama, and now you're down on yourself because now you're not undefeated and one more loss. Your playoff hopes, your SEC title hopes, everything are done. So A&M, to me, is the most overrated team in the SEC this year. They were last year. I'm not saying they're going to go 8-4 again, but you can't tell me this team's going to show up and go 10-2 or 11-1. I just don't think they have the talent or have the ability to navigate the schedule to do that. Because, again, those 4 games that we just mentioned are going to be extremely tough. They still have Florida coming to the Swamp. They still have to face LSU. They still got Ole Miss. I believe that game is in College Station. I'm trying to remember. I think it is in College Station, but still got Ole Miss. Still have Auburn, who might not be great, but isn't super easy. I believe that game's at Jordan-Hare Stadium, which A&M typically plays well there. But still, it's a tough schedule, which so was life in the SEC. But I believe A&M genuinely is the most overrated team in the SEC and will continue to be so until they prove us otherwise. And I don't want to hear it about the 2020 year where they went 9-1 and made the Orange Bowl. Congrats. It was a COVID year, and their schedule was pretty light. It was pretty dang light when you really go back and look at it. Not taking anything away from them. They won that Orange Bowl, deserved it over North Carolina, but I don't think the Aggies were really that great in 2020. And I think, when you go back and really break down that schedule in deeper detail, it wasn't the worst slate in the world. And the teams they faced had some down years. Arkansas still dealing with a rebuild, obviously. LSU was not great. I think they avoided Ole Miss that year in that offense because of COVID. Lost to Alabama, obviously. Didn't look too great against Auburn towards the end of the season. Again, not taking anything away from A&M, but consistently, they're an 8 or 9 win team at best. Have yet to win 10 games under Jimbo Fisher, and that's not going to change in 2022. So, didn't mean to go off on that little tangent there. I don't even dislike A&M, if I'm being honest with you. I really don't. I don't know if there's a single team out there that I abhor, that I just don't like. I just think it's frustrating as an analyst, and I'm sure for many of you as fans, to look at these teams when more than likely they're not going to live up to their expectations, but yet every year the media and the outlets and the magazines and everybody hypes up these teams, and it's not going to pan out well. Why is A&M going to go 8-4 last year and they're going to start the year off in the top 10? Why is USC going to go 4-8 and start the year off at number 14 in the country? Why is Miami barely going to make a bowl game and finish above to start the year off right higher than teams like Arkansas or Kentucky or guys like that won their bowl game and won 9-10 games the year before and returned a lot of talent? It doesn't make sense. Why? But why are they getting that talent? Well, it's because of their name brand and who their coach is and things like that. It doesn't make sense. It's not fair. And in time, it'll work itself out. But it can be very frustrating. I think it's the case for A&M for me. So Kentucky, I don't think they're very overrated. Georgia, I don't think they're going to win 10 games like some people think. But they're still a solid team. A&M is the most overrated team in the SEC heading in to 2022. Excuse me on that little rant. Where are we at here? Michael Haw, good morning. Happy to have you here, my man. Really, really excited for that Purdue game, which I promised someone that we touch on that. Logan, we're going to touch on Penn State Purdue. We will talk on that later today, actually, with our prediction video. Stay tuned for that. Again, 1 p.m. Central Time. We will be having our prediction videos for week 1 come out, so stay tuned. We do talk about Penn State Purdue, but bottom line is it's a big game for both teams for different reasons. Penn State, are they going to win the East this year? Probably not. Probably not, because you got Ohio State, you got Michigan, maybe even Michigan State ahead of you. Penn State needs this win, though, to get back on the right track, because if you lose to Purdue a couple weeks later, you're going to Auburn. A 1-2 start isn't out of the question, and just like that, your season's done in the sense of your high hopes. Going to a New Year's Six bowl game, maybe winning the Big Ten, wanting to be, last year Penn State was a top 5 team before they lost to Iowa. Then things fell apart. So the talent is there for that top 5 team to return. It really is. So it's big for them to get off on the right foot after a disappointing finish last year. It's much bigger for Purdue because this loss in week 1 could ruin their Big Ten West title hopes. The West is wide open, and Purdue is absolutely a contender for it. If Purdue loses this game, there's a chance they're going to lose a few more down the road. They've got Maryland. They've got Wisconsin on the road. They've got some tough games down the road that ultimately, if they lose, do we really think they can still win the Big Ten West? Probably not. That's why the Penn State game's huge. They've got to start off on the right foot. It's at home. You've got to defend your home turf. It's going to be a heck of a battle. Offensively, Purdue owns the edge. Defensively, Penn State owns the edge. Purdue has home field advantage. Question is, who wins it? Who wins it? And we will answer that question for you today at around 1 p.m. Central Time with our prediction video. So make sure to stay tuned for that. So again, Michael Hogg, great to see you. So happy you're here about that. Here for us today. Yes, Scotty, Houston at Texas San Antonio is a huge underrated matchup. Also, Army Coastal Carolina. That's a game that's not going to get nearly enough attention, but that's going to be really, really fun to watch. Army and Coastal, the two different styles of offense. Grayson McCall back in action. Two of the better group of 5 teams that don't get talked about too much. Watch out for that game. It's going to be really fun on Saturday. Let's see here. Yeah, Tavis thinks A&M is the most overrated team in the country. Very well possible. Maybe not just the SEC. Maybe in the country. Let's see here. Billy Carter thinks Pittsburgh should be on high upset alert against West Virginia. Again, 7.5 point favorite. But obviously that game is going to be very close against the Mountaineers. Michael, I released my playoff teams, man. We did a whole video over that. I released my entire playoff predictions, and then on a live stream last week, we released our New Year's Six bowl predictions. So we finished every big preseason prediction like that. But the playoff teams, just to reiterate, for me, we do have Alabama at 1, Ohio State at 2. I think those are the undisputed top 2 teams. They're 1 and 2 in the rankings right now. I think they will be by season's end. So Alabama 1, Ohio State 2, Georgia at 3. So once again, getting 2 SEC teams in the playoff. And then Clemson back in at 4. So it would be Alabama versus Clemson. And then it would be Ohio State versus Georgia for your college football playoff. That is who I have, Michael, as our playoff teams. But again, we do have a video for that we posted last week or 2 weeks ago. I think if you go watch one of our previous live streams, it's actually labeled New Year's Six predictions. You can check out who we have in all the other New Year's Six bowl games. Some of those picks actually might surprise you. Let's see here. A couple more before we wrap things up this morning. I actually do have a meeting to go to. Kind of crazy, right? Not fun to do on a Tuesday morning, but would much rather stick here and be talking ball. But tomorrow night, we definitely will. And hopefully can stick around a little bit longer. Let's see here. Saw a great question. I wanted to address this. Where was it? Chris, Standing Bear, does anyone think Oregon will play Georgia closer than people expect? I personally think that game's going to be pretty close for about a half. And that spread, and we're not here to predict the spread here. That's only with the expert picks, which again, we'll throw that out there since we're talking about the expert picks again over on the website. Highly recommend you go check them out. Again, and sign up for them. It's a whole year for that price, lowest price in the country, some of the best marks in the country. Again, we beat out over 80% of the national analysts every single year. So you sign up for the expert picks and take our spread picks, you're going to walk away with a lot of money by season's end. We can guarantee you that. We can guarantee you we're going to finish with a winning record. So make sure you go check them out. Go sign up for that. Again, it's in the description. Easy to sign up. And we'd love to have you on our team, guys, with the season starting on Thursday, really, and our first picks coming out tomorrow. So definitely want to go check that out. Real quick, I want to come down here, give a big shout out to my man, Steven Smith. Thank you very much for that super chat. Again, guys, makes us, obviously super pumped when we get these super chats. It means a lot for us. and helps us out big time. Again, with this being what we're doing full time, the super chats, the expert picks, the prize picks, the Venmos, the PayPals, whatever, it helps us out big time, and we funnel it back in to try to build this channel up. So Stephen, thank you very much for all of your support and for this super chat. And I want to address this here. Saw your predictions for Iowa State. Saw them losing to Iowa. Do you think it is possible for Iowa State to win the game? And if they were to win, how would they do it? Great question. Great question. Stephen, you're an Iowa State fan. Obviously, Iowa has the Cyclones number, right? What's it up to now? 7 straight that Iowa State has lost to the Hawkeyes. And now the game's at Kinnick, which obviously is very tough. It's one of those things where it's a very tough environment. And when we talk about how good of an environment that is, how tough it is to play there, but you almost wonder how phased Iowa State is by it. It's an in-state game, right? So I believe there's going to be some Cyclone faithful that do show up for that game, and we've seen them play them very tough in Iowa City. So obviously home field advantage will play a role, maybe not as big of a role as it does for some of Iowa's other Big Ten opponents. I'm not going to go out there and say it's not possible for any team to win a game, right? Unless there's some I feel very confident in. This is one where I'm not adamant about Iowa State losing. The biggest question, Stephen, I think you would probably agree with. First off, I do think it's possible because, quite frankly, Iowa's not going to have a great offense again, and that's where it's going to come down to. That's kind of when you really measure it out on paper. It's Iowa struggles offensively. We saw that last year. Iowa State, though, we think could struggle mightily offensively, considering how they're dealing with a new quarterback. Going to have Hunter Deckers in there. No Brock Purdy. No Breece Hall. You wonder how quickly Deckers can get things going, which is going to be great that he's going to get a game under his belt, right? This isn't the season opener. So he's going to get a chance to really get out there, get hit, deliver some throws, build some chemistry in a real game setting, which is going to benefit them when they head into week 2, week 3, whenever they play Iowa. So I do think it's possible if Iowa State exceeds expectations offensively, because then you own that edge. And we saw time and time again for Iowa last year when they played teams with really good offenses, they could stop them. They struggled against Purdue. They struggled mightily against Michigan. They lost to Kentucky, who didn't have the most electric offense, but had a competent quarterback play and was able to wear them down as the game went on in that bowl game. If they're going to win the game, how do they do it? They're going to first off exploit the Iowa defense. The secondary is going to be really, really solid, right? So this is actually a game where I think they're going to have to utilize the run game a little bit more. And Iowa's pretty stout against the run, but up front, they're not as strong as they are in the back. Back 7 stronger than the front 7. So they're going to have to, first off, win the battle at the line of scrimmage, Stephen, which, again, Iowa State right now, a couple questions on the offensive line. Can they blow Iowa off the lines and get enough push to move the ball? So to me, it's going to be able to exploit them on the ground game, which ultimately, it sounds cliche, but ultimately sets up the pass. If Iowa State can get in there and establish the run, something they struggled with doing last year, they wanted Breece Hall to get going, right? And they couldn't because that Iowa defense was so dang good. And the turnovers at the end ultimately killed Iowa State as well. But if you can establish the run 5-6 yards relatively consistently, that's going to set up play action for Hunter Deckers, who's not the most mobile of quarterbacks. It's going to set him up to stay in the pocket. And you've got Hutchinson out there at wide receiver, going to be the top dog, right? Maybe deliver to him a couple big strikes that might be able to get Iowa State in the end zone. And I'm going to tell you this, Stephen. If Iowa State is winning this game at halftime, or is tied at this game at halftime, or I say down 3 or 4 points. I don't even want to go full touchdown, which it sounds ridiculous, but 3 or 4 points heading into the second half, this game will come down to the fourth quarter. And I can tell you that it will come down to the fourth quarter. I love rivalry games like this. I'm not putting it out of the realm of possibility. To me, I just think Iowa is the better team right now when it comes to returning experience plus home field advantage. But it is not out of the realm of possibility for Iowa State to win this game if they can move the ball offensively, which some of the more inferior teams that Iowa faced last year struggled to do because of their defense. So it's going to be a matter of exploiting that Iowa defense because the Hawkeyes offense, they're not going to do much. They're really not. They're not going to get much going at all. So very possible. I hate that Iowa State didn't take their chance last year and take advantage of the opportunity to beat them at home last year, but certainly are in the running to do it. So, Stephen, hope that answers your question. Hope that helps. Again, thank you very much for the super chat. Really, really appreciate that. Again, every single dollar helps. And so, again, I appreciate you and all of your support, man. All right, last few questions real quick before we wrap things up. Let's see. And you know what? If we don't get to your question today, make sure you bring them back tomorrow night. We definitely want tons of discussion. I was talking about Chris. Does anyone think Oregon plays Georgia closer? I think it's very close for about a half. Georgia pulls away in the second half, probably wins by about 2 touchdowns. But yes, I think it's going to be a little bit closer than people think. Georgia's not going to dominate Oregon like they did for the majority of their schedule last year. Let's see here. A couple of great comments I'm kind of going through. Matthew agreeing with me on A&M. Obviously, how they're very overrated within the SEC. Great question on Matthew there. Why did Big Ten and SEC fans make it seem like the Big 12 was bad for not having teams in the playoff when really the Big 12 has been really competitive? Baylor and Oklahoma State. Great question. I like that question a lot. And Scotty making a good point there. Let's not forget TCU in 2014. They were, yeah, Steven, absolutely, man. Anytime. And I appreciate you and all your support. Happy to have you here. Happy to have you on the team, my man. And I'll wrap up with Matthew's question here about that. You know, I do think it's kind of wrong the SEC and Big Ten fans do that because it is ridiculous. Because you're right, the Big 12 has been very competitive. As Scott said, take 2014, for example. TCU should have probably been in the playoff. You know, Ohio State got in over them, made the most of it, won the national championship. But TCU was really, really dang good last year. And that's really a major reason why the Big 12 added a Big 12 championship again, was because of TCU getting lost out. You know, Baylor and TCU were really good 2014, 2015, those days, and not having a Big 12 championship hurt them when it came to maybe getting a team in the playoff, because we know how strongly the committee weighs those conference championships. And so that was a big reason. Well, I added that. But yeah, TCU was there. Obviously, we've seen Oklahoma a few years get into the college football playoff. Last year, you're right, Baylor and Oklahoma State, both very, very competitive, both winning 12 games. And had Baylor not lost to TCU by 2 points, Baylor would have been in the college football playoff. And honestly, that Big 12 championship game could have determined who goes to the playoff, because it had Oklahoma State won that game. They easily could have gotten in over Cincinnati. It would have been very interesting to see what the committee would have done in that situation. So, you know, why do they do it? I don't know. It's salty. You know, it's college football. People are gonna, you know, argue and debate and criticize every team that's not theirs and every conference that isn't theirs. But bottom line is, guys, you know, when you look at it, it's the Pac-12 that should be getting the most hate, right? The Pac-12 has had, what, 2 representatives in the playoff? They had Oregon when the playoff first started, and they had Washington, I believe, in 2016. Outside of that, I think from a strength of schedule standpoint, they're weak. They are, you know, they don't have the talent. Maybe they're getting there. Utah's a competitor this year. Oregon typically is in the running, but they always fall short. They could be again this year. Some people are high on USC. You know, who knows who can emerge this year from the Pac-12, maybe slip in there. But it's the Pac-12 for me that should be getting the most hate, not as much the Big 12. Because the problem is, Matthew, what it is, they're not getting teams in the playoff because they're beating up on each other. If we're being quite honest with you, they're beating up on each other. And, you know, the Big 12, they don't have divisions. You know, so that most of the teams are playing, almost everybody plays everybody. Hey, Matthew, thank you, man. Hey, I appreciate you. Hope to see you tomorrow night, again, 7 p.m. Central Time. Thank you for your support, man. But, you know, it's one of those things where they're beating up on each other. You know, like the SEC, for example, you have 2 divisions. Alabama's so dominant, Georgia's so dominant, and unless they play each other in the regular season, they're more than likely going undefeated or a one-loss team, and they know that everybody else in the division isn't going to be able to challenge them for that. Even if Alabama loses one game, there's probably not another team in the West that's going to be able to go undefeated or only be a one-loss team and own the tiebreaker. So Alabama can be a one-loss team, still win the West, as long as they win the championship they're in. And more than just like last year, Georgia was undefeated, Alabama was one loss, Alabama won, so they were both one-loss teams. They both got in the playoff. The Big 12, that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen because they're beating up on each other. They don't have divisions, and the best of the best are going to have to play each other year in and year out. Baylor, Oklahoma State, Texas, guys like that are your contenders are always going to play each other. And there's no way around that. So you're guaranteed one of those teams to get a loss. And in time, your Big 12 championship easily could be a one-loss team or a two-loss team or whatever. And there have been years where the Big 12 championship doesn't determine who's going to go to the playoff, right? It doesn't matter who wins, the winner's not going to the playoff. And that's frustrating, but it's just the way of life in that conference. So pretty wild, honestly. And that's kind of a loose understanding and explanation, but hope that helps a little bit. But with that, guys, I do have to run as well. I know Matthew had to run. I know a couple other guys had to run as well. But we appreciate every single one of you today for hopping on this morning live stream. Again, these morning live streams, doing pretty good. Honestly, we really appreciate the engagement early in the morning. We appreciate the views and the super chats and just the discussion. So again, guys, today at 1 p.m. Central Time, we will have our Week 1 predictions. Again, the top 5 games that don't include ranked versus ranked teams. So remember, those 5 underrated games you were talking about, you're going to see ours today with predictions for each of them. So stay tuned for that. We've got prediction videos coming out the rest of this week, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, the ranked versus ranked teams that we have for that. And then, of course, another live stream tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Central Time. Bring your questions, bring your comments. We have some big topics we're going to discuss. We want to hear from you. Let's have some fun. Last week's was awesome. Let's keep doing it again now, tomorrow, Wednesday night, 7 p.m. as we really begin this college football season. So, guys, thank you all so much again for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert. Please continue to like, comment, subscribe. Check out everything down in the description below. Michael, we appreciate you. Clement, Matthew, Steven, Scotty, all of you guys, Logan, we appreciate all of you guys. Thank you again for all of your support. Have a great rest of your day, great rest of your morning, and we'll see you back here tomorrow night.